All right, well, welcome everyone. I appreciate you guys all making the time to come and get some questions answered, hopefully for any of your life goals or at least in the immediate future, trying to figure out what you might want to do as far as a decision with math and hopefully for your career moving forward. So my name is Nate Allen. I've been teaching at Fresno City for over 10 years, and my colleague Simon here, we got hired at the exact same time. We actually went through the program at Fresno State concurrently, not so much together. We had a few classes, but um, we became fast friends soon after. And David Shoemaker is here. He is with the Fresno City MSE Transfer Center. So he's a go-to guy as far as questions moving on and forward. And so we invited him here to hopefully answer any questions that you guys might have with that as well. So just a few quick things just to kind of lay out, show you guys a few places where you can get information. And then we'll go ahead and open it up to you guys right off the bat so that you can start this conversation and we'll steer it towards you. And then at the end, Simon and I can wrap it up with a little bit more information, whether you guys want to stick around for that or not, just for the video purpose of this. All right. So I'm on our Fresno City Math Club Canvas shell, and you guys hopefully have kind of clicked through these with the announcements and the discussions. That's where we've been posting some information for you all. But then under the files, if you haven't checked that out, I just wanted to let you know that there's quite a few things on there that you can go ahead and click through. In the immediate future here, if you're transferring and planning on getting the ADT for transfer, I put that form on there for you guys. All right, and it kind of shows you exactly what you need to do in order to get that associate's degree for transfer. And again, this is in math, of course. All right, so you do have some options here and there. And again, if you have any questions on these, you can let Simon, myself, or even Mr. Shoemaker know, because there are some changes that have gone through in the last couple of years because of this assembly bill and some other things moving forward that we thought would be in the betterment of the whole. So we created like a Math 17, which is just a combination of 7 and 26 together. So you can basically take those two classes for 7 units or this one class for 5 units. And there are benefits to doing one versus the other two. And that depends on if you're planning on transferring to a CSU versus a UC, things amongst that, that we can get into more detail with. There's also minors on here, and a lot of these are for Fresno State. Simon and I actually both went there, and we have a relationship with them that we're trying to also help foster, and that is for a couple of these programs called the NOICE and Teaching Scholars, things of that nature. So again, tons of information on there. I'm not going to insult your intelligence and sit here and click on it and read it to you, but I wanted to show you that there's a lot of information here. There's also some places that I would like to also post. And again, this is for Fresno State. If you guys want to talk about other campuses, whether they're CSUs or UCs or even out of the state, again, let us know. But this is something that's really cool that Simon and I did not have the opportunity when we went back in 2000, way back when, all right. They now have, instead of a BA, which they still have that option here in math, they've now changed it to a BS, which makes more sense, all right. Not the BS that might first come to mind, but a Bachelor in Sciences, okay, instead of a Bachelor in Arts. And that makes more sense because of the applications of math in the sciences. And so there are now 6 different options for you all to kind of decide and cater to what you think that your expertise or your use of the degree might be. For us, it was one thing, a BA in math. And all we had to figure out was when we're going to take which classes, because they were already pretty much mapped out for us. So you can see there's an applied math option, the general option, and so on and so forth. There's some really cool ones that they didn't have as well. They're called integrated credentials. And so if you're planning on going into the teaching option that we're going to definitely lean towards in this little meeting here, but you can now couple getting your degree and your credential together. And for us, they didn't have that option. We had to get our BA in math, and then we had to go and do our credential, which was another year. So they've now blended those to give you guys a little bit faster way to get into the teaching options, and hopefully start your career. And by the way, it's really nice if you do, because obviously you're going to be making money, but you're also going to get vested into the retirement system. And the sooner you do that, the more years you accumulate, the better you're going to end up at the end of it all. Okay. So again, 6 different options, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. It's totally up to you guys on how you want to look at that. For us, it was one option. We knew this is what we had to do. We got it done. But it's kind of nice that they've now given you guys different variations of all of these different degrees, all within mathematics. Okay. So I can post this. It's just on the Fresno State website, and then you can just go up here and put in math major or anything like that. All right. So feel free to look through those and explore and see what might interest you a little bit more. There are other programs that also are on here, and if I go back to that one, you can see they have a bunch of links here for the single subject credential. If you want to just teach up to middle school math, you want to just minor in it or stats, masters, and so on. All right. Other programs that they also have on here are more scholarships, which we also want to get into a little bit, and I'll let David talk about that as well. A few of them that we're in partnerships with Fresno State, Simon and I, is this Noyce scholarship, all right, which is also under the files here. Okay, so again, you can click on that, read through it, but the first thing that might jump out at you is the amount. Just for getting this scholarship, you can get $10,000 for 2 years. And they're assuming that you're coming in as a junior, okay, if you got your ADT with us, all right? So you can get up to 20 grand for your last 2 years, your junior and senior year. But again, I don't want to give you false advertisement, right? You have to make sure that you read everything. It is required, all right, that you're assumed you're going to teach for 2 years for each year that you get that funding. So you're basically signing up to teach for 4 years. Now, if you teach for 1 year and you're like, whoa, this isn't what I thought it was, or even 2 years to just make it easy, then you obviously are going to have to pay back 10 grand because you didn't do the other 2 years. Okay. So again, these are little things that you want to make sure that you read and are aware of. And there are also stipulations that there's got to be 50% or more of the students that participate in free and reduced lunch. So things like that, they want to really have you guys go help some of the most needy students since they were helping you out. So just little things like that, again, that you can read through and check out. All right.
And you have to be part of the integrated credential to be applicable for those scholarships. So there's, I think, 2 there under that list on our Canvas website, but you do have to be part of the integrated credential to be able to apply for those.
And again, there are other ones on here. So again, I can post both of those links. I'd say do it to the chat, but that doesn't really help everyone that's not going to be here. So I'll try to just make like a Word document or PDF form and just have all those that you can just click and find, so that you don't have to search on your own. But a bunch of different ones on here that you guys can click through and see if you may want to apply for. The cool thing about this is the worst thing they can say is no. All right. Otherwise, you might be able to get a lot of help. All right.
Yeah. And with the integrated credential as well, there are advantages, like Nate said, like you get into the STIR system quicker, which is the retirement system, but there's also certain disadvantages too. Again, we don't want to give false advertising on that, which is when you take those credential classes at the same time as you're taking your BA, what happens is they do not count as post-baccalaureate units. And so one of the ways to move up the pay scale quickly is to take units post back, and that allows you to move up the pay scale faster. And I think the first bump is at about 30 units post back. And usually the credential program takes care of that. You have about 30 units just in the credential program. Beyond that, though, I think the next jump on the pay scale is 45 units and then 60 units. And so these have to be all post back units. And usually all the credential units can count towards that. But in this case, since you're taking them at the same time, they're not actually post back units. So again, there's advantages and disadvantages within the program, which if you do the integrated credential, you'll probably have to take more classes afterwards to make your units post back actually move upwards. So there's a lot of options to consider when you are deciding to be a teacher. And there's definitely avenues where if you don't quite get to where you want to get, like for example, let's say you go through a bachelor's in math and you complete all the classes necessary to be, let's say, at least a minor or something like that in math, which isn't too bad. You got to get through the calculus sequence and maybe 2 more upper division math courses. But once you get through that sequence, if for some reason you decided that for whatever reason that you weren't going to pursue at least a bachelor's in math, you've taken a lot of math at that point. And so even if you major in something else, I mean, a lot of teachers actually do this. I mean, the odds are your high school math teachers, or at least half of them, probably didn't actually have their bachelor's in math. Not a lot of them do. Because not a lot of them do, the state of California recognizes this, and they know that there's a high demand for math instructors. And so they don't require, per se, everyone to have a math degree to actually teach math. In fact, what you can do is you can take a CSAT test in multiple different levels. And if you can pass this test, as long as you have a bachelor's degree in anything, it actually allows you to teach math. This seems to be something pretty consistent with, let's say that you get a degree in history and you apply for a job, and maybe you're competing against 30 other people, and that consistently happens. And so I've seen a lot of PE teachers, history teachers, whatever it might be, decide that it's really hard to get a job in whatever subject they graduated in, and they need a job meanwhile. And so they start looking into math, because if you have a math, well, definitely if you have a math degree, I mean, you can teach high school anywhere you want. They're just begging for math teachers that have actual degrees. But what you can do then is you can take prep courses to try to pass this CSAT test. And this CSAT test is 3 different levels. Now, you don't have to take all 3. There's the algebra level of the CSAT test, and that's the first one you can take. And that allows you to teach, up to at least, I'm not sure exactly what it is with the Common Core, but up to at least Algebra 1. And then there's a geometry portion too. And then if you want, you can even take a calculus portion of this, which allows you to teach any high school math class all the way up through calculus without ever having your math degree. I've had plenty of students take my classes just to get through that test, but Fresno State itself has prep courses for this test, and they have programs where they will actually pay for the prep courses for you to take this test. They're that desperate when it comes to actually getting teachers that teach math. And so even if you didn't make it all the way through your degree, it's always still kind of a nice backup that you can still teach math if you've passed the CSAT test. One of the things we're going to talk about here is, just all the different routes. And so I don't think most students are aware of that. When I went through it, I just kind of assumed you have to have a math degree and you have to have your credential afterwards. And that's fine. I think that's a normal path, but there's all these other paths. And so as long as you can pass the CSAT test, which it's not an easy thing to do, but it is, if you're pretty savvy in math, and let's say you've already got a minor, it's a pretty reasonable thing to do with a bit of studying. And once you're able to teach math, I mean, let's say you got a degree in something else. I mean, it always gives you that backup job. I mean, it is the most safe thing ever to have the ability to teach math in high school, because no matter what you do, if anything happens in your life, and let's say you don't get a job or you get let go or whatever it is, you can almost at any time go teach math if you have the right credentials to actually teach math in the state of California. Let me see here. A few other things. Let's say that you do decide to go the traditional route and you get a bachelor's degree in math, and then you go into the credential program. You have to be aware that when you have a bachelor's in math, usually what they make you do in the credential program is they go a full year, and the first semester you teach with a master teacher, you teach one class, and he or she helps you out. And then the second semester, you kind of take over an entire class for a teacher at one of the high schools. Well, when you teach math, you don't have to take that route. The odds are you can go apply at a high school somewhere and you will actually get the job. And so even though you're technically considered an intern and you get paid a little bit less, rather than teaching for free an entire semester, you can get paid a reasonable salary while going through this. And that counts as part of the credential program. So you actually get paid to teach the second semester versus having to teach the entire semester and not getting paid at all. It is your own classroom. There is no master teacher when you do that. It is actually your own classroom. Now, you definitely get support from whatever credential program you're in, and they'll help you out with all that stuff, but it is officially your own classroom at that point. And so the other thing that tends to help with is that I think Nate, I'm not sure if Nate did that. Did you do that too, Nate?
I did.
All the way through? You did? Yeah, I did it too. And one of the things that allowed me to do it, it actually allowed me to bargain and count even though I only taught one semester, which was that second semester, it allowed me to bargain for the future. And so when I went to other places to go teach, I said, I won't teach here unless you give me a full year of credit for this year. And so on the pay scale, that actually put me a year ahead for the entirety of my entire life. But when you add all that up for 30 years, $2,500 a year can be quite a bit when you multiply it times 30 years or 40 years in the end. And so
it's like
you definitely have that
extra year.
Yeah, you have that negotiating power when you're a math teacher. I mean, you can kind of choose where you want to go. Oftentimes pick the classes you want to teach. There's a lot of power in it because they're so desperate for math instructors.
And Simon, that's a great segue into what I wanted to quickly show everyone about what you can get compensated. So just a little segue here, and then I'll let you pick right back up. I pulled 4 of the local districts: Clovis, Fresno, the 2 biggest, and then Central and Sanger. All right. So this is a nice little thing to kind of show you guys the salary schedule, okay, what you can make. And so this is the one that Simon is talking about, not being fully credentialed yet. Okay. So this one right here is what you would make year 1. And this is your monthly take home, right? But this is what you'd make year 1 without even being fully credentialed.
A lot more than us.
And remember, yeah. And remember, guys, with this, you don't have to have your degree just yet. And most people, like he was saying, Timmerman was saying, PE, English, some of those other ones where there's an abundance of people, because not a knock against them, it's just a little bit easier of a route to take than going full math. You guys can use this to your advantage, and you can start earning way before they can, because they're going to have to get their degree. They're going to have to get some experience. They're going to have to fight for those jobs where other districts, a couple years back, Fresno, I don't know if they're doing this anymore, but Fresno Unified actually went to New York, the state of New York, to get math people to come back and teach over here, because they had a little bit of an abundance and we're starving for them. They were giving $5,000 signing bonuses just to come teach for them. That's how bad we need. And again, hopefully they're qualified, but that's how bad we need math teachers. Okay. So again, this is pretty cool. And you can see some of the things that Timmerman was saying, the different ranges. So there's 2 different ways the salary schedule works for teachers. We go from left to right in these ranges, and those are all units beyond your degree. Okay. So this first one here, range 2, is what most of you would come out being fully credentialed and teaching. And you can see that's a $5,000 pay bump right there, just for having that. And by the way, you'll get that $5,000 every single year, right? Because you already have made that, and then you'll be making more. And you can see one thing that's kind of nice is you're guaranteed each and every year, which is the other column here. Okay, the rows up here, you want to get as far over as you can, as quick as you can. Because if you look at your year 1 salary, which is 47.5, look what it would be if you That's 75 units above. And your master's, well, now you're making $5,000 more right there. And again, that's going to be every single year, plus all of these additional bonuses that you're going to be getting each and every year that you teach. Okay. Now it does kind of cap out at 25 years, but look what you'll be making. And by the end of 25 years with inflation and everything else, you guys are going to be making over $100,000. And by the way, that's for teaching 188. That's 188 days out of the year. And you guys are math people. Hopefully you know how many days there are in a year. You're working about half, right? You're working about half of the year. You'll get a month off for Christmas during that time. You'll get a week off during Thanksgiving, during spring break. And just those two, spring break and Thanksgiving, that's more or as much as most people get during an entire year in their careers, is about 10 days, 14 days. And don't forget, you're going to have the entire summer off, another couple of months. Okay. And again, these are just some of the added bonuses of teaching, not to mention helping people every single day. And some of you guys may have gone through this in the elementary, junior high, high school, where you didn't have teachers that really knew what they were doing, so they couldn't explain it. And it was very, very frustrating. We need better and more qualified teachers so that we can have students not be fearful of this beautiful subject, math. All right. So again, I can post these and I'll put them on our Canvas page. All right. But that was Clovis. Here's Fresno. And again, you'll get extra bonuses for masters and doctorates and things like that. Okay. They'll give you little bonuses for furthering your education. This is Sanger Unified. And then Central.
Not to mention too, I mean, on top of what is honestly a pretty reasonable salary for living in the Valley. I mean, you could make an argument if you lived in San Francisco that, okay, it's not enough to live comfortably, but in the Valley, it's pretty great. When you think about most people that go out and get jobs in any kind of business, I mean, most of them don't start at any higher salary than this. If you go out in business and get a job for $40,000, like most people will take that right away because that's a pretty good starting salary. And so this really isn't any lower than the average salary you're going to go get. You might say, well, if you're an engineer, you make $90,000 a year. Well, that's probably not true the first year. I mean, it might be a little bit more than the teacher salary, but it's going to take you a while to build up to that salary too. And then on top of it,
divide the days that you work. Right? If you divided the days that you work, it's probably very comparable, if not the same.
Yeah, and on top of it, you get really good benefits. I mean, that is huge. The fact that you get such good benefits, and then as Nate showed you earlier, you're in a very comfortable retirement system. When you retire, it's not like getting a Social Security check. I mean, what is it exactly? Again, you get like up to 90% of what you make the final year. Is that correct, Nate? I think is it 90% of what you get your final year?
So it depends. So if you don't mind, it's like we practice this. He's just setting me up for all of these, right? So let me just go and show you real quick the retirement benefits and the way that it works. And I'll just throw out a scenario, right? So there's basically just three things. The service credit, which means how many years that you taught under, and it's called CalSTRS, California State Teachers Retirement Service. Okay. And then they multiply that by your age factor, which this one's a little bit more tricky. They'll give you a little bit of a bump until you get to a certain age, which for us, it's 61 and a half. If you get to that age, and they give you your benefit is basically maxed out. And again, this depends on several different things. So it's going to be different for each individual. And then you take your final compensation, and they usually do that for a 12-month or 1 year stint, or sometimes they'll have to go to 3 years and average it out. Okay. But that's what you'll get for the rest of your life. And that's the beauty of it, right? I have some uncles that one is a truck driver and another, he works for a pipe company. they have their retirement and they can see exactly how much they have in there. And they have to try to figure out, how much am I going to need month to month, and how long am I going to live, so that I retire at the right date. And then I hope that this is enough to cover me. And I don't have to, oh man, I'm 90 years old, I need a job because I ran out of money. The beautiful thing about this system, you get paid until you die, right? Once you
Even
retire.
when, I was going to say, even when you go, you can kind of make a deal where you get a little bit less, but when you die, your significant other keeps getting paid that money for the rest of their life. So it's a pretty good deal when it comes to how well this retirement system is actually set up. And it's much better than most other industries, which, like Nate said, you might say, well, this is how much money I have left. If I spend it, there's nothing left. And what do I do then? Where you never have to worry about that here.
So here's just a quick scenario for you. The age factor is going to depend on, again, what percentage you end up getting for those number of service years. All right. And let's just say, to make the numbers easy, that you got $100,000, right? So if you taught for 30 years, right? Say you started when you were 30 years old and you taught until you were 60, right? Then you get basically about 2% for every one of those years. So you'll be making 60% of your final salary, which was that. And again, it'll be more than this, most definitely, but $100,000, right? So right there, again, my math people, where are you at? What's 60% of 100,000? And don't forget, you're getting $60,000 a year for doing what? Hashtag Netflix and chill, right? You're doing nothing, right? Now, again, you are paying into that every single year and every single month. So it's not like this is just free money. But remember, once you've retired, you will get that 60 grand for what? The rest of your life. Okay. So again, just some of the cool little benefits, something to always think about as you move forward. But Simon, go ahead and keep going with what you were saying. These are just nice little segues that he was setting me up for. And if you want to stop here, we can even open it up to questions. See if David has anything to add.
We'll throw a few more things in. I think I kind of went through the high school route on all the options and why it's kind of a no-fail type situation, which is you can always go teach high school. There's always a math job waiting for you. But let's say that you wanted more than that. And like, for example, me and Nate, I think we both had our aspirations to eventually teach junior college. But I want to be honest about junior college and say it's not like high school. You can't go get a job wherever you want. I recall, we've both been on committees. There's at least 40 to 50 applicants each time at a junior college for a math job. Now, that doesn't mean you're not going to get the job. It just simply means that it's much harder to get that job, but you can always fall back onto the high school no matter what. Now, if you decide to get a master's degree in math, there's a few different options you can go. You can either get a master's degree in pure math, and so versus a master's degree with a teaching option, and then a master's in math education. Now, if you want to teach in junior college, you want to get at least a master's with a teaching option. The one with math education, it's unlikely, that you'll, I don't want to say unlikely that you get hired. It doesn't really meet the minimum qualifications even of a lot of these junior colleges, so you can't really get hired. But the other two seem to be just fine no matter which one you get. Now, the subtle differences between the two, between a pure math master's and a teaching option is if you do in pure math, you have to take two specific classes, 271 and 251, which is abstract algebra or advanced abstract algebra, and then advanced real analysis. So those are two classes you don't have to take. And then the other major differences are, if you do it in pure math, you have to take qualifying exams. So you have to take an exam in abstract algebra and real analysis. And real analysis is like the theory of calculus. And then when you do your thesis/project, If you do pure, you have to do it in an actual like math topic, where a project, if you're already teaching in a classroom, you can kind of set up a study and do a project on that. So you have a little more options on what you can do. But really both get you to the same point. If you're going to teach JC, I don't see necessarily a huge advantage in having one over the other. Once you have a master's degree in math, though, one of the nice things, at least, other than you can apply all those units to your high school career, and so that is how I added most of my units, and I think that's how Nate added most of his units, trying to move your way up to the pay scale. Let me see. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Trying to move your way up the pay scale. Now, getting a part-time job, which is what both me and Nate did, is relatively easy to do in junior colleges. They're always looking for adjunct to teach classes at night. So what I did was I taught high school for roughly 7 years, and then 4 of those years I actually taught at junior colleges. I taught at College of the Sequoias at night. So, you know, after you're done with high school, you drive over there. So the pay, I mean, per hour for what you get, it's pretty good. I'm imagining at this point is somewhere up to like $60 an hour. I think it was like 50 when we were doing it. I don't know if you have a better update. I think it's about 60. And what it does, I think, is it kind of gets your foot in the door a little bit and gets you that college experience as well. I know a lot of students want to go directly through college and they're like, well, I kind of want to skip the high school thing. Look, I think everyone thinks it'd be nice to skip high school, but I think you get invaluable experience out of high school that you would never necessarily get in college itself. And B, if you're going to apply to college right away, I think your odds of getting the job being on committees is on the lower side. I would say out of the last 10 people that got hired at Fresno City, at least 9 of them taught high school at some point. It's very difficult to get a job straight away without that experience kind of that you need, because it's looked upon as a very positive thing in the hiring committees. Plus, the other thing is, you know, if you get a degree or a master's and you go for college and then you have a tough time getting a job, there's nothing to fall back on. If you've got that credential, all you got to do is just kind of keep teaching high school and keep going back. And whenever there's openings, you can apply for those jobs and try to get them. But you've always got that steady high school math job going no matter what. And you can pretty much teach adjunct classes at will. Once you get into a place, you're always going to keep getting classes. So I think there's real advantages to focusing, even if you're going to do junior college, there's real advantages to getting the high school credential as well. That way you have that job sitting there waiting for you wherever you want.
And it gets your foot in the door for the Cal Stirs and getting your, you know, years up even more so, rather than just teaching part-time at the JC and you're not getting anything but, you know, the monies that you'd be earning. You don't get benefits with that. It doesn't count towards your retirement as well. So definitely a lot of benefits, easy to get a job. You can pretty much pick anywhere in the country that you want to go if you have a math degree and say, I'm going to go teach high school here. And you could, but again, that would be in a different state possibly. So they have different retirement systems and you may not want to jump around and try to maximize that. But again, all things that we wanted to give you guys as information, but we wanted to go ahead and throw it over to David real quick. Mr. Shoemaker here. He's got another meeting at 11 he's got to attend to. So if he has anything to add just out of the gate, Dave, let him know. Otherwise, we'll open it up to any questions. I know Maria has been watching intently, so Mary. So if she has anything, or if anybody else that has their cameras off would like to ask any questions. Dave, do you want to talk first, or do you want to just open it up to any questions?
Yeah, no, let's take questions first, because I'm not, I don't want to waste time with what people don't want to know. So I'm not sure what they want to know, but anybody has any questions about applications, transfer planning, I'm here to field those.
So students, if you guys have anything that you want to ask, either Timmerman, myself, or Mr. Shoemaker here, now's the time. Otherwise, maybe he can just speak to some of the deadlines that are pretty typical for CSUs, UCs, and maybe even for scholarship monies. But anything that you guys would like to mention, go ahead.
I do actually. I have been doing this thing. It's I've been following. I don't even know what it's called. The Fresno City College Academic Evaluation. It says I have 2 classes left, which is Math 7 and Math 20, or no, Math 7 and Math 26. And in the beginning, you said Math 17 would combine both of them. I don't want to take 2 classes, but if I have to, I will. I just want to know, will that be more beneficial to me in the long run if I just take 1 class versus 2?
So it really
Well,
depends.
first,
Go ahead,
let me throw out, if that audit you're looking at says Math 7 and 26, can you send me a screenshot of it? Because that should be an error. The degree should be 7 or 26. So if you can send me a screenshot, either email it to me or whatever, I'd like to see that degree audit, because that very well may be a mistake.
I just allowed her to share screen if you want, Mary. It's up to you.
Oh yeah, I would love to share my screen. This one.
And while you're doing it, 17 isn't yet.
This, I have everything else like nice and green. I love that. But
Yeah, go down. That does say complete both courses with.
mhm.
What is your goal? Are you trying to go to a UC or a CSU?
My actual goal was to go to Fresno State.
Okay.
Just because like I'm here and it's right there. So that was my main goal.
I don't think this is how because what this is showing me, you have one of 2 paths. You complete Math 7 and 26, or you can do 7 or 26 plus 11, 40. But I don't think that's how your degree is created. I think this might be an error. Hold on real quick. I want to take a screenshot of this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I do think this isn't accurate to how your folks' degrees created, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right, I got a screenshot of that. Let's see, you're in Seaside 40. Yeah, Matt, what you have scheduled works for you. And if you're going to Fresno State, that's really the best path. You don't need the linear algebra for your major at State. And really the folks, and Nate kind of alluded to it, the folks that really need the linear algebra tend to be engineering majors or even computer science majors, and
Yeah, that's not what I want to
especially
do.
at the UC and the Cal Polys. So, but math, so there really wouldn't be a particular benefit for you to take 17, and I think you're fine sticking with what you have, what you're registered in.
Okay.
And that will work for the degree.
Okay. Okay.
You can take 7 and 26 at the same time if you wanted.
Yeah, that's what I'm actually going to do this next semester. I'm already technically registered for it. But when you guys stated that, I was like, ooh, I would like to do 1 class instead of 2, because I am a full-time employee, not for math, but for another place.
Well, if you're dead set at taking linear algebra, then take 17. I mean, it is more efficient. And correct if I'm wrong, folks, but my understanding is there's a whole lot of overlap between 7 and 26. So it's not like you're getting more curriculum, you're just getting some of it twice.
That was the reason it was combined to start with, because there was so much overlap in the classes. So decided why not put it together as one.
And because doing them both separately wouldn't allow for certain things to get to that build up to where you can cover the last chapter or 2. That's what 17 now allows, because there's not as much overlap. You just kind of go through it, and then they can add on those things that they wouldn't be able to cover each individually. And so now we're just waiting on approval It has to go through this long process. It takes a year up to 2 to get approval for them to accept those classes. Or now this new Math 17, because it's new, we had to go through this process so that the UCs will accept it based on the course outline of record. So that's why we're not pushing it so much just yet. But for you, if you're not planning on going to the UC and you still wanted to, like Shoemaker said, you could.
And, you know, some of the UCs are already showing their articulation, but it does take time. I mean, it's a brand new course. Mary, so it looks like you're applying. So have you done your application for next year?
To be honest, I actually don't know how. So I've been kind of like reading and doing like my, like I can see it and it says apply, and then I get like a little notification saying that I can apply. So I'm like, what am I missing?
Where are you applying to?
I have no idea. Like, cause I look through WebAdvisor and I do my best, and I kind of like, what's this gonna mean? What's this gonna do? You know? And then I asked my like fiance too, and I'm like, well, what are you doing? But he's doing a completely different major or whatever. So I'm just like, I have no idea. To be honest, I have no idea. I don't know like where to go, where to start, what to do.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll tell you, I mean, because you're about done. So you want to be,
Yeah.
a 4-year
Mhm.
next fall. And
Mhm.
so, and for everybody else, I mean, we're in the application periods for both the CSU system and the UC. So your deadline for any CSU is December 4th. And your deadline for the UC system is November 30th. I will tell you for sure, I'm going to show you folks my screen, and this is for anybody applying. You know, most of our students apply to the CSU system. And, you know, since we're working remotely, we've developed this page to help students out since there's some services we can't offer. And so if you're going to apply to Fresno State or any CSU, start at this page. I put the link in the chat if anybody wants to pull it. It's just on the Transfer Center's website. On the, you know, if you go to the college and the Transfer Center, you'll find it too. But I did put the link in the chat. And we start off telling you basically start at the steps below. And it's this simple. Start with step 1. Tells you how to get your account going with Cal State Apply. The CSU system has one website for applications. The UC system has another. And we've even created some screen capture videos. They're short, 3-4 minutes, that really get you started with all of these parts of the application. We've got resources that we've linked to, tips for each section. So, I mean, this really will walk you through the entire application. The most tricky part is entering all your academic history. We show you how to print your transcripts from WebAdvisor and fill it all out. And so there's lots of great information here. And even at the end, when you've got to order your transcripts, we show you how to do that. Links to get your AP score report for anyone who has AP credits. So this will get you there. But if you still are finding you've got a question about something with the application, we do have some ways to get those questions answered. One, we've got an email, and this is, we've got one of our folks that answers this email every day. And we also have every day, we've got some 15-minute appointments with a transfer counselor. Every day we've got a counselor that's on these appointments where you can get a quick question answered, or when you're done, you can get a 30-minute review session where one of us can look it over and give you any information. And so these links take you into Starfish to schedule those appointments. We also have Fresno State has an application workshop schedule that we've linked to, and another help center. So anybody doing a CSU application, this is where you want to start. We don't have a similar page yet for the UC system. We're working on that, but we do have, throughout the fall, we've been highlighting some workshops that our UC rep from Merced is doing, and she'll help anybody in the UC system. That's kind of how the UC operates. Their reps will help for the entire system. And she does have a workshop, an application workshop coming up on November 13th. This is the Zoom link to it. Anyone can access that. So Mary, I would definitely, I would get on it. And then if you want to talk more about, you know, your options and pros and cons of different campuses to transfer to, I mean, you know, you can make an appointment with me, and we can kind of review that and look at any particulars. But yeah, definitely. I mean, you're done in spring, it looks like, and so you want to be applying right now, because you know, you don't want to have to delay that.
Yes, thank you. I'm gonna definitely do what you're showing us right now with the whole CSU application guide and all that. I'm gonna look into that after.
Yeah,
we get done
this has
with
been a
this.
really great. Go ahead.
Oh no, I'm done.
Okay. Yeah, this has been a really great resource. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from it from students. It's been very helpful. We've actually been getting a lot of Clovis and Reedley students coming into our appointments as well, getting help. So I figure that's a good sign that it's been a helpful resource. So anything else, Mary?
Not that I can think of right now, but I'm able to get a hold of you, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, okay.
Yeah, and just you can call the transfer center and ask to make an appointment with me, or send me an email. And then I was going to tell you, apply for graduation. Do that in WebAdvisor. It's kind of on the right side of the student menu. Once your spring schedule is set, go ahead and apply for graduation, and that's what triggers evaluations to look at your account and review everything and make sure that you are good. And if you are, then they flag you for graduation for spring.
Okay. Okay, sweet. And you said WebAdvisor, correct?
Yeah,
It's in
WebAdvisor, that student menu, there's 3 columns. So on the right side, there'll be apply for graduation, and it'll list the 3 colleges. I don't know, maybe 4 colleges now with Madera. And of course you would select Fresno City College, and it should show the math associate degree for transfer there.
Sweet.
And then if there's any issues with that, let me know.
Okay, absolutely.
Great, thanks so much.
Is there some deadline for applying for your degree? Like what you were saying?
There is a deadline for applying for your degree, and I want to say in the spring semester it's usually sometime in March. I'm not sure exactly when it is this year, but they do have a deadline just because it takes time to actually do them all, so to get it guaranteed. But you can apply for your graduation either the semester you're going to graduate or the semester before. But if you apply the semester before, you need to have your schedule set for spring, because if they see, oh, you know, you haven't registered for Math 7, they're going to be, well, you're missing a course. And so then they won't flag you for graduation. So as long as your schedule's set, you can do it the semester before. But I always tell students, at least, you know, first week of spring semester, apply for graduation, and then you're in the list. Yeah. So so definitely don't delay that. I mean, you'll still get your degree eventually. It might be after the fact, and then it kind of messes you up for potentially participating in graduation and all that. So at least by the first week of spring, apply for your degree.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Any other transfer related questions?
All right, well, thanks so much, David. I appreciate you taking the time out. I know you got another meeting to go to, so again, those are some of the things that I was a little bit leery about that Timmerman and I may not be able to answer. So that's why we brought on Mr. Shoemaker here. He's the man. If you guys do have any questions, make an appointment with him. He's obviously on campus right now, just sitting in the library with those people that haven't moved in an hour. So if you guys
Yeah.
have any questions,
They're
go check him
intent on
out.
studying. Yeah, absolutely. I got lots of space here.
Thanks again, Dave. We appreciate you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Always happy to help. And, you folks want to make an appointment with me, don't hesitate.
Awesome. Thanks again, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Any of you guys have any questions for us as far as teaching, the profession, how to get there, our experiences? I mean, anything at all you can ask now. I don't know if Timmerman has anything else that he wants to add. And of course, you guys can always start a discussion or message us personally for anything else.
I did have a quick question. I don't know if you guys would know about the Noyce scholarships and the teaching scholarships.
Yep.
I know you guys mentioned that you have to be in the integrated credential major to get into the scholarships, right?
Correct. Yes.
Now, is the integrated credential major only available for people in the scholarships? As in,
No. It is one of the options that you can choose as part of, you remember Nate said there were 6 different paths for getting a BA. You can do like statistics, pure math, teaching, all of that. Integrated is one of those options that just basically speeds the whole thing up a little bit by about a semester. But yeah, it's only one directional. Like you have to be in the integrated credential to apply for the scholarships, but not the other way around. So yeah, just one directional.
okay, so then you'd be able to apply for the integrated credential major the same
Yep.
way as any other major?
Correct. That's one of the options. Any other questions, guys?
That was a great one, Malia. I just posted a informational link to Fresno State, and I've already accumulated a few of these that I've had on there, as well as the one that David just showed Mary. So I'll post all of those just on a Word document so you guys don't have to go searching for them. And I'll put that as well as the, if you guys want me to, I can put the salary schedules on there as well, so that you guys have those as easy access. And if there's anywhere else that you want to search, just put in 2020 salary schedule for wherever, and it'll pull up. And you can even look at what it is in the State Center Community College District, and that goes for Fresno City, Clovis, Reedley, Madera, Oakhurst, and you can see the difference between the community college versus the high school level, which there definitely is a large difference. I don't know about Simon, but from where I was in my 6th or 7th year teaching at the junior high and high school level, and then when I got this position full time, it was about a 20 grand increase right off the bat.
Yeah, and there's some, just again, for more knowledge on all this, if you do decide you want to teach JC, we were actually able to carry 5 years of our high school experience over to the junior college, over to Fresno City. So those first 5 years don't go to waste. You don't just jump back to year 0 on the pay scale. You start at year 6 basically, which is pretty great, because I would say for the majority, not all, but a lot of teachers that do end up getting a junior college job, they're usually somewhere in high school between 5 and 8 years. I would say that's probably a pretty fair assessment. Now, the other thing I want to add to this is, if you get a math degree and you decide that you want to teach, and you teach, and then for whatever reason, let's say you don't like it, don't feel like you kind of wasted your time. Like, I don't think there's a better degree you can get overall than a math degree in terms of any job that you want to get. And so when you go for a job interview anywhere, they're not really looking specifically for, yes, there's trade schools and places you need specific skills and trade jobs. But in general, when you go interview for any job, really what they're looking for is a really smart person sitting in the other chair across from them. And they're determining whether they're going to hire you based on, I would say a lot of it is kind of your intelligence level. And if you're sitting there and you have a math degree, I think you're going to be in the prime spot for interviewer to be looking at you and deciding whether you are going to be an asset to the company. I think everybody knows that if you get a bachelor's in math, that is no easy feat and no easy task. And so if you have that kind of commitment to achieve something, I think they're going to want to hire you no matter what profession that you go into. So And like I said before, at worst, you can always, and that sounds horrible, at worst, you can always still go teach, but there's always a backup job no matter what, even if you decide that you want to do something else first, or if you start out teaching, then go do something else, and then go back to teaching. There's always those options. I mean, I know I've always felt very comfortable knowing that even in the worst case scenario, there's still a job waiting for me. And I think that's been pretty comfortable throughout my whole life, knowing that that is the case. And then the other things I wanted to add is be mindful of where you do go to college and what you want to do with that. You know, if you're going to be a teacher, then unless somebody's paying for you to go to UC Berkeley or Stanford or whatever it is, right? I wouldn't recommend those options, because you're going to put yourself into some massive amount of debt that you're never going to get out of. Fresno State is a very cheap option. And on top of it, I think both of us would agree, meaning Nate and I would agree, that we actually had a pretty good experience at Fresno State. I think I enjoyed it, and I feel like Nate probably enjoyed the experience too. There's nothing really negative about it. It's not going to hinder you from getting a teaching job anywhere, or I would say just getting a job anywhere. You know, I would say go to a UC if you want to be a doctor or something like that, or perhaps a lawyer where you need a little more clout to get into the PhD program. But if you're just going to get kind of, if you're going to be a teacher, or you're going to be like even an engineer, a variety of jobs, it's totally fine, and you won't put yourself in this massive amount of debt that you can never climb your way back out of.
Yep, and that's what the CSUs were basically meant for, right? So if you're just going to go into the teaching at the high school level and maybe have admiration of possibly going to a Cal State or even a UC or any other university, then like Timmerman was saying, you may want to think about where you're going, but you get a very private, I guess I would say, experience over at Fresno State, because just the numbers, the sheer numbers aren't what they are at the UCs. Where if you go and take which I know a lot of you guys have already taken a few of the calculus courses with us, but if you were to go and take those classes at Fresno State, you may have 30 to 50 students, just kind of like it is here. But if you went to a UC, you may have 350 students in one class. So again, it's just a little bit more personable at Fresno State. It's a very good option if you're going to go into teaching. And again, we'd have no problem meeting with you guys more about it, some of the scholarships and opportunities that are out there. And like I said, if you don't mind, post it. This is what I always tell my students in my classes now. Post it to the discussion board rather than it be a one-way, a one-to-one, if you will, to go a little bit mathy. Functionality there between just you and I. That way everyone gets to see it, and they may have the same questions, and that way they can see the same answers. And they may not even have those questions until you brought it up. So again, we really appreciate you guys showing up. We were hoping to get at least 4 or 5, and we nailed it.
We got close.
We did have one more that had to take off, but again, you guys, thank you so much for showing up. Hopefully this was informative in some way, even if it was only for raising more questions about, hey, maybe I do want to go into this, or now I know there's a bunch of different routes and I have a lot of research to do to try to figure out what might be best for me. So
I have a question really quick.
Yeah, Zoe, go ahead.
To teach at the high school level, you would only need like a BA or a BS in math, and then to teach at junior college, you need a master's. And then like you could teach at like Fresno State with a master's, but they do prefer you to have like a PhD or be pursuing one, right?
Yeah, it's a great question, Zoe. Timmerman and I actually talked about this yesterday as we were trying to see and make sure what we want to relay to you and prepare. So there are workarounds, as you guys know, in many things, right? So if you wanted to teach at the junior high or high school level, you could actually go and get your blended degree, and that is for like teaching elementary school. And then you could basically just minor. They call it a concentration in math, where you're basically getting a minor on top of that and all the other things that you have to do. And then like Timmerman said, you'd have to take what is called the C best and then one of the C sets, just one of them, in order to teach up to 9th grade math. which ninth grade math is basically like algebra 2, because there are some ninth grade. So you could go all the way up to algebra 2. But if you wanted to teach the entire breadth of courses that are offered, up to the calculuses, they usually call them A, B, and BC for first and second semester, then you would have to get your degree, like you said, Zoe, with a BA or a BS in math. But on top of having to get that degree, whether it's the integrated one or not, you have to get your credential as well. Okay, so you're going to have your credential in order to teach eventually, right? Because you're in math, you might be able to, like Timmerman and I both were able to, is get an internship where they hire you in advance of finishing, because they're like, you got your math degree? Yep, come join our team. And I actually have a buddy that I graduated with from high school, and he went back after some military and some other jobs, and he's like, I want to teach, I want to coach. And so he asked me, and I was like, dude, if you want to get in there, math. And so he went and he did the C-sets, but he'd been out of the game for quite some time. He had to go in a few of those prep classes like we were talking about at Fresno State. And it took him several times, but he eventually got it. And he's not yet finished with his credential, but he was already hired and has been teaching for Central Unified for over a year. So there are plenty of opportunities to work around, Zoe. It just really depends on what your ultimate end goal would be on what I would suggest you do. So if you wanted to teach as well as the junior college, then definitely get that BS in math and then move on to get your master's after you've gotten your credential and taught at the high school for a bit. Then once you have your master's, you can teach, and you only have to have about half of your degree in your master's before you can start basically like an internship at the community college as well.
Okay.
And then they have a time limit though that you can do that. I believe it's 3 years. I'm not positive on that. I'd have to check. Maybe 5, but they give you a few years leniency. Hey, finish that up because we're letting you do this. We'll let you teach here because you have enough, but you got to finish before we're going to continue or let you continue teaching here. If you have your master's, you can teach at the university level, which Zoe, I'm sure you brought that up because you knew I was at the time when you were in my class. And when I was teaching at Fresno State, again, I'm making the minimum amount, meaning that I'm pretty much pigeonholed onto what I'm going to be able to make at that level. Now, you can teach there, which we actually have a part-timer at our school. He teaches part-time with us, and then he teaches full-time at Fresno State. And that's the difference between the community college. We have an agreement that so that we don't have to pay you benefits, you can teach 10 units or less. If you teach anything over that, then they're like, hey, these people are teaching enough, they're working enough, so you got to give them benefits. So that's the cap that we have at the community college, is you can teach a maximum of 10 units per semester. Okay? At the university level, you can teach the full gamut. You can teach up to 15 units. And then they just give you a percentage of what the very, very minimum base salary is. So again, you can make more at the university teaching part-time, but you will only ever make that much unless you go on and get your doctorate. So if you ever wanted to get a university level job, which again can be nationwide, then you're going to need to get a doctorate. And so you want to make sure that you go that math route for your BS, your master's, to pursue your doctorate. So it's not a one size fits all, that's for sure. But again, if you wanted to have a conversation in depth about what your possibilities, what you're thinking you might want to do with it all, we'd be happy to do that. We can set up another one of these little gigs. You can talk more about that with Shoemaker in that 15-minute session, or we can do it over the discussion board or email.
And if it helps any, Zoe, Fresno State salary full-time versus Fresno City College salary full-time, Fresno City does better than Fresno State does.
If you can believe that.
Yeah, salaries at Fresno State are decided per person, not consistently across the board.
That's lame. Okay.
Yeah, we've
But,
actually had a professor over there that both Timmerman and I had. He applied to one of the, I think it was at Clovis. It wasn't at our school, but he
that was at
applied
our
at,
school. It was at
was
ours.
it both of them?
Yeah, it was ours. He had gotten the job just to throw it back in their face basically and say, I want a raise. And then he got it.
Yeah, he used our job as leverage to stay over there to try to get paid more.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but you can see ours over here, our salary schedule. Again, the starting salary is very comparable to say like Clovis, but even if you're maxed out with your masters all the way over here, you're at 52. We are at 57 without being beyond, which we could get all the way up to 71. And then like Timmerman said, we basically all got, as long as you taught 5 years or more, you were guaranteed that 5th year. And so again, this is how important it is, even more so at our level, to be beyond your degree, as maxed out as you can. Look at what we would have come in at on year 1 for us if we didn't have all those extra units. 72 grand versus 86. That's much different than what it is at the high school level. Theirs isn't that vast, but for us, it's imperative that you get over as quickly as possible. That's a 16 grand difference that not only are you making that year, but since you're over already, every year thereafter. So
It is a lot of units. That's 90 units post back.
but you can get away with doing some of those pretty easily, like through a national or a Fresno Pacific. They don't all have to be button seat type. You can do some, which I know we're all online now, but it was online type courses that you can do independently as long as they were post baccalaureate level.
I even have some recommendations for those if you get to there and you remember.
Yeah.
When I first got the city, I needed 15 more units to move up to 90. And I took all in the summer, I took 15 units in, I think, 2 weeks and just knocked it out morning to night. It was supposed to take like 6 weeks, I think, but I just wanted to get it all done. But yeah, so you can, if you take the right ones, I mean, they're not cheap, but you make your money back like in 1 year just for moving up the pay scale. And I went to specific, and actually the classes I took there, they were actually very good. I was very surprised because I thought they were going to be just more boring classes because you have to go through a lot of boring classes if you want to teach. But they were really helpful and insightful, and I actually remember a lot from those classes and still have that information. So Pacific was a good place for that.
All right. You guys got anything else for us? David, haven't heard from you. Do you got anything? Otherwise, again, guys, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate you showing up. And if you want to follow up on anything, again, discussion board in the math club would be awesome. That way others can see what's going on. All right, if that's it, we'll go ahead and stop it here. Again, nice meeting you all. Wish you the best. Finish out the semester and with your careers as well. All right? We'll be in touch.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You got it, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, you got it.